Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering Altered Carbon, Season 1, Episode 3, In a Lonely Place. In this episode, this one was grim. I mean, the whole premise of this show is pretty grim. But this particularly just kind of got to me. There was a lot about it that I found really genuinely upsetting in a way that I feel I was either just sort of numb to last time, or maybe I was mentally in a better place for last time. And I've mostly been trying to rewatch things before I record them, but I didn't for this one. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha. Thank you very much to Renate for commissioning this episode. Renate is here in the chat. And yes, Renate, I'm very excited. I saw that you commissioned some more episodes coming up as well, and I'm super, super excited. You guys, this show, it's wild how it opens so many different avenues in terms of the potential implications of things. And it has to stay focused for the story to work, but it brushes up against a lot of different possibilities, just enough to really give you a glimpse into how fucked up so many things have become based on the way things work in this new universe. And I almost said new uniform. Oh my God. I just really wasn't expecting the extent of the world building that we're getting in this show. And I shouldn't be that surprised in a way, because I know that this is coming from actual novel source material. And a lot of times that's a huge advantage. World building is a lot simpler on screen than when you've already got this huge back catalog of material to work with. But it can be pretty difficult, surprisingly difficult, I think, to get that stuff on screen without making everything feel sort of cluttered. And I really think they managed to keep it from feeling that way. I'm pleasantly surprised. So, there's just a lot in this, guys, that was a huge bummer. And I, especially eventually in the end with the sex worker getting killed, I don't know if she's going to be re-sleeved, but I have to assume not, because of the way that she was killed. It seemed like he went for her stack. And why would you want her around? Because the whole point of killing her is to keep her quiet. So you don't want to re-sleeve somebody that is going to talk. It was such a grim ending, showing how all of us already in the world we live in are so disposable anyway, that adding in this new twist to it where we can just be re-sleeved, and the trauma of that is as nothing, allegedly. I'm putting is as nothing in a very so we're all pretending, but I don't buy it kind of way. This is the thing that I'm sort of fixated on. I just want to, I'm going to jump into the episode, I swear. Just give me 2 minutes. There's another series I'm covering, the Immortal Great Souls series. Excellent, by the way. Super recommend it. A lot of fun, really well written. Characters are excellently drawn. And it's, one of those rare series where it's a male writer and a male main character, but the group of friends winds up being many more women than men. So you get more of that than I was expecting. But there is something that they go through called the gauntlet in that, where you basically fight as if it is a real life fight. And you are brought out of it back into consciousness in your body, which is unharmed. But the gauntlet is an experience of dying that can feel very real. And Scorio, who is the main character in that, he keeps pushing himself through this gauntlet to try and advance his abilities without wanting to acknowledge that every time he dies in that space, it's still affecting him. It's fucking him up. And he really doesn't want to hear it because it's one of the only tools that he has in a world where everyone around him has many more advantages than he does. And he is just doing it because he feels like he doesn't have other options, and that other people who are insisting it's harming him, they are not thinking through how few options he has. And the truth is, they are, though. It's simply that he values one thing so much more highly than another that his emotional well-being is very secondary to him, even though the people around him can see his emotional well-being is already fragile, and he doesn't need to fuck with that even more, because if he does, he will eventually just die. And he seems to really believe that that won't happen to him for some reason. And that's sort of the vibe that you get here, is that people are treating these bodies like it's nothing to be killed, like it's nothing to go through the trauma of death, because if you can just be popped back into another body, then who cares? But I can't accept that being beaten to death in the ring by your partner and then going home to your children in entirely new sleeves isn't like fundamentally fucking up all of your relationships in a profound and irreparable way. And never mind affecting you yourself and your psyche. So let's just get into this, shall we? This was just you guys, it was grim. I will say one thing though. I am really delighted with the fact that the way that like the story is being told, there is a sense of like a couple people here and there in the midst of everything being like, you know, that's fucked up, right? And it's just so accepted by so many people. But we do have a one or two folks dropped in that are like, no, that's not normal. I know we think it's normal because this is just the way it's done. The way it's done and normal aren't the same thing. Just a thought, you should have that mentioned to you. So we start off with a flashback. And you guys, this was giving Babadook so hard. This is, it's wild the way that it's done, because these kids it's a storybook that they're reading. And I can't tell if it's meant to be sort of the way that they're interpreting what they're reading, or if it's the way the book actually works because we're in the future and technology is different. But the images are like moving on the page in a way that feels like it's actually happening. And they're telling the story to each other. And this is Kovacs and his little sister, I'm assuming. They are reading this like awful story about a man who had these children that he made to do all of his work for him. And one day they got really hurt and they like passed out or something. And he found them and killed them, mangled them by throwing them into the mill. But once he realized that he had killed the slaves that were doing all the work, he decided that he was going to bring them back to life by sewing their parts together. And what comes to life is this like creature that then begins to, he's called the Patchwork Man. And the creature turns on him and kills Mad Mikola. And then its body continues to degrade and fall apart. So it goes out into the world trying to find new children that it can kill and take their parts to sew up into himself. It's a really horrifying story that actually is extremely, like, appropriate for children. It's one of those that, like, it feels for me as an adult looking at it like the implications of this are so horrifying. The animation is really upsetting. My instinct is to be like, this is not appropriate for children. And then I think about, like, the things that I was into as a kid, and I'm like, no, this vibes. I completely would have been into this story. It's, and, you know, the whole way that the idea of this works is like, I'm going to push you, my workers, until you fall apart and can't do anymore. And then I'm going to punish you by hurting you. But once I realize that I can't function without you, I am going to assemble back what I can and try to make it work. And if this thing rises up against me, it's going to continue to hurt the people that it is made of originally. These are 2 children that this man killed. And he makes this creature out of their bodies. And then the children go out and continue to harm other children in an effort to preserve themselves, which is incredibly fucked up, and also just the way that things can work a lot of the time, because all types of systems of abuse are perpetuated. It's, you know, whether it's like generation to generation, or it's the populace turning on themselves because we just love to turn poors against other poors. There's so many ways that this can work, and it's genuinely really, really upsetting, and it sets the tone for the whole episode quite well. You know, I really think that this is like kind of nailing it. So then we have the 2 of them seeing this man coming in and saying, stop complaining to this woman. And the kids immediately hide. You know why. And he's telling this woman to be grateful. And she can tell this guy is fucking on the edge and says, you're right, I should be more grateful. But that does not stop him from hitting her and then starting to really beat the hell out of her. And this explains why later, when Kovacs is watching a woman get beaten by her husband, despite the fact that they are both consensually involved in this, he cannot take it. And, you know, I'm not mad at it. This also is the moment where he says, never face the monsters alone, to his sister. We are in all of this together. And it's interesting because later on, when we get the flashback to, and I'm sorry guys, it's been a while since episode 2, so I'm going to forget people's names, so you're going to have to help me. But the revolutionary that's fighting in his flashbacks that he was clearly like in love with, she says something about how you always want to find people to work with because doing things alone does not make any sense, and it is not safe, and it is not efficient. It isn't about the weapon, it is about the pack. And so you want to find people that are going to be loyal to you, even if they are ultimately disposable people. And she admits this, which honestly I can't get mad at either. Even if they are, you need to find a way to get others in whatever neighborhood you wind up in on your side and working with you. Sorry. Oh my God, Renata says, I just realized that story is an allegory of capitalism. Ugh, I hate it. Yeah, it's an allegory for like a lot of things, honestly. Candace says, kids dig that weird shit, man. Kids are weird. Indeed. And then her name was Quellchrist. Thank you. So we come back to the present, and Kovacs is showering, and he has a real sort of vibe about him of regret. There's just a sense of, I should not have fucked her. And, yo, dude, you were not fully in your right mind. She was drugging you. It was fucked up. So then we have Poe, and he's like, you got an invitation requesting your presence at Suntouch House this evening. And also, I'm really sorry about this, but I hate to use crude language. I was hacked and somebody watched the two of you fucking. So I don't know how to say like how this drone got past security, but it did. And we get to see the footage of him fucking his wife. And again, you guys, I said this last time and I stand by it, truly startled at the fact that him fucking this man's wife is even a problem. I really just didn't expect it to be an issue. Y'all are how many hundreds of years old? Just get over it. Oh my God. I really would think you live this long. What are you even talking about? The thing that he says later is like, when you've had a partner for as long as I've been partnered with my wife, you reach a sort of veneration. And Kovacs is like, so you mean you respect her too much to fuck her? And he says in response, I respect her too much for you to fuck her, at least, which I thought was kind of a funny response. But like, what? It's a weird, it's like we're going into a sort of like Madonna horror complex, but in a direction you wouldn't fully expect because it's just so extreme. Especially evidently knowing, as he puts it, the things she can't help doing. Like, how you're venerating her, but you're also acknowledging that she is extremely human and wants to fuck. What do you think she's gonna do, my guy? Like, how exactly did you think simply not fucking your wife ever was going to go for you? And I'm super sorry, but Kovacs is one of the hottest men I have ever seen. So you can't hire this man and invite him into your home around your unfucked wife and not have her fuck. And you can't blame him for that. This woman literally has a drug embedded in her skin that makes men want to fuck her. That's not his fault. Yell at her. But, you know, it's always our fault, isn't it? Anyway, whatever. Okay, moving on. So, yeah, he is like being told to come to this party, and understandably, he's just like, I really don't want to do this because I don't know what I'm walking into. I'm very suspicious now that he knows that I've been fucking his wife, probably. And again, even here, I was personally like, I'm sure it's not going to be what you think, dude. I don't think he even cares. I think somebody else is following you and watching this. I don't even think it was her husband. I was so wrong about all of it, y'all. I just really thought at this point we wouldn't care. I was just misjudging heavily. So then we jump over to the precinct. Now, remind me of the detective's name and her boss's name and her partner's name. Give me everybody's names. I would like to pull up like an IMDb, but I won't because those things always have like spoilers in them. But she is being summoned for this party as well by the lawyer that she openly hates and who openly hates her. And this lawyer is a real climber. She is one of those people that's like, I am going to put up with whatever bullshit so that I can actually be one of them. And later on, when Kovacs is like, I cannot believe that you are doing this, she points out how long it has been that she's been working towards being invited here as an actual guest. And now that it's finally happening, she's not going to let him screw it up for her. Just the idea of wanting to be one of these people. This is ultimately what it always comes down to. I want to be hyper rich, but I want to be hyper rich because I want to do things for people and help them. And that very instinct is what keeps me from ever being able to be hyper rich. Because the reason that people get to this point is because something's wrong with them and they don't care about other people. So it just doesn't compute. Those are not compatible. You cannot get to this point without something profoundly not okay with who you are at the base of your soul. And if you don't have that thing wrong with you, you won't get here. It just won't happen for you because you will do the right thing sometimes, and that will screw you. You know, just it's just very frustrating. So, Candace. Oh, Kelchrist is the way you say her name. Okay, thank you. Christian Ortega, Mahmoud is her partner, and Tanaka is her boss. Awesome. I really do appreciate that there's like a lot of varying ethnicities, and the names are like, you know, matchable to the ethnicities, so that it's very easy for me to be like, oh yeah, her partner who said he's Muslim is Mahmoud. Like, I don't need to have two white guys whose names are Chris and Ted and have to figure out repeatedly which one is Chris and Ted. That is going to be a lot easier to keep track of. So yeah, she is being invited to this thing. The permit is time-stamped 2 hours ago because they're meths and they got this approved really fast. It says requested a permit. It's for the fight to the death, apparently. An extreme organic damage event. I did obviously not know what this meant at the time. And there was a part of me that was like, does this mean that they're basically saying we're going to kill Kovacs, but because he belongs to us, we can? So it, you know, here's just a permit to let you know, but it's not a crime. But also the fact that it was just organic damage and not his actual stack. I don't know if that is something that you can get a permit for. I'm assuming not, unless it's Kovacs, who is like basically property. So maybe for him you can. There, you know, like I don't really know. But anyway, yeah, she is very disgusted by the fact that they were able to get this approval so quick. And we jump over to Kovacs going and speaking to the black guy whose daughter he winds up helping. Remind me again, guys, his name. But he is basically, Kovacs is following the instructions we find out later about assembling a team and becoming friends with people who can help you. And there's an interesting moment, I thought, here where the man says, like, well, you don't care about her, so why are you doing this? And Kovacs says, don't take this personally. I don't care about anyone. That doesn't mean that I can't help her. And I really don't believe you, Kovacs. I don't believe you. You do care about people, or you wouldn't bother stopping the fight in the ring later. Like, he wants to pretend that he's turned it all off, and he just hasn't. And I think he believes that if he can convince himself that he has, then he won't have to feel any of this anymore. And wouldn't that be nice? You know, that's one of those where it's like, I think all of us have felt at one time or another, I wish I could keep myself from caring about this thing. It would be very convenient if I didn't feel this profound, like, reaction and sadness. Because the people who don't seem to feel that seem to be doing pretty fucking well. You know? It's just, once again, the thing that makes you a decent person is what causes you to suffer in some way. And you just have to keep being aware that the choices that you're making and the priorities that you have are holding you in a place where you suffer. And you have to know that you could choose to not feel this anymore. Probably. You could probably make yourself if you really, really didn't want to. But I don't feel like Kovacs really wants to. I feel like Kovacs, like, wishes that he could turn it off. But if he were given the actual option to really turn it off, I don't think he would. And again, very, very relatable. So the two of them come to an agreement. Vernon Elliot and daughter Lizzie. Right. Thank you. It's giving Jaime Lannister. Interesting. He would have made a pretty hot Jaime Lannister. I mean, we already had a hot one, but like we could have had a second one. We already had one, yes, but how about second Jaime Lannister? So he says, like, I have this like AI at this hotel. Well, he doesn't tell him about that part, but eventually he says, were good backup the other night, and I thought I could help Lizzie in exchange for you helping me. She needs psychosurgery, and I can put it on the Bancroft tab. And he says, I'm not taking anything from that fuck. And I thought this was fascinating. His response here is, I don't think he did it. He's into consensual death. He replaces the sleeves he kills. Doesn't make him guilty. And he says, doesn't make him innocent either, which I was like, fair. I can't remember at this point. I probably should go back and rewatch episode 2. I can't recall what it was that brought us to the conclusion that he was not responsible for the girl in the alley, for Lizzie. I feel like I remember it, that the MO didn't quite match. That because he replaced the sleeves, the fact that she just got tossed the way that she did didn't make sense. But I can't remember if there was anybody that he did suspect or something that pointed in a particular direction. But anyway, he ends it with, if you agree to this deal and I find out Bancroft did do this to your daughter, I won't even try and stop you. I'll give you the fucking gun to do it. Go ahead. So they come to the agreement. They go back to the Raven. Poe has gotten the psychosurgery permit that he needs to do this thing. He warns the father that, like, you won't be able to talk to her for a while. And just basically, like, you are going to have to trust me with her. So he hands over the stack and says, I consent. And we get to see this very strange sort of setup later where there is a like a bed. The whole room is done in this sort of soothing, allegedly pink. And he is trying to tell this girl, like, I am at your disposal for whatever you need, and I won't let harm come to you here. And she says something really strange. And once I get to the scene, I'll quote it directly. But she says that her mother tried to reach for the stars and she died. Something like that. And just about how cold she is now, that she has icicles in her hair. Something like that. It's very, like, it's super cryptic. I think it's meant to be a the kind of thing that, like, looking back, we're going to be like, oh, that's what that meant. But as of right now, unhelpful. Doesn't tell us much of anything. Don't know what's going on with her mom. Don't know what's happening. So then we go back to Ortega. And she is looking at the layout on I think she's looking at, like, the girl that fell from the sky. And she's like, I am trying to figure this out. What do we know about Mary Lou Henchy? And he says, Tanaka was right. The mom got what she wanted. And she says, yeah, but we didn't clear it, which I think you pointed out. Oh no, he said, I'm sorry guys, I'm trying to read this in real time. She fell out of the sky from nowhere, which is impossible. She must have been tossed out of an air car. And he keeps chanting, it's not your case. So she was thrown from somewhere up high, and quite a few people that live up there will be at Sun Touch tonight. All the times we've wanted to question myths and been stonewalled, I've been invited into a house full of them. And the whole way that this is going down for me, the fact that we have the girl tossed in the alley And then we have this woman tossed out of a moving vehicle high up. It's women specifically that are feeling particularly disposable right now. So I am going to be real curious where this goes. There's a part of me that is like, is this his son? Is this like the woman that was thrown out of the moving vehicle looks so much like the wife that I thought it was her for a moment. Even the outfit that she was in and everything. And the MO being like similar to his dad's with the strangling, but like not quite the same. It just feels like, is somebody trying to like imitate him somehow? Is the son just... Because we find out later on the daughter is in the mother's sleeve, which is the sickest shit I have ever heard. But setting that aside, the children, if their father dies, don't get a penny. He has to stay alive. So, if one sleeve can be taken, maybe another sleeve could be taken. Is it possible that the son could take the father's sleeve and just get rid of his dad, who he sees as like, I don't know, a hindrance of some kind? For what reason? I don't know. And continue to live his life in luxury and nobody ever knows that his dad is actually dead? Could that be anything? I feel like there'd have to be a real reason that he'd want his dad to be gone, though. There'd have to be a combination of circumstances. I don't know. Anyway, so she asks for Mahmoud's help and is like, I want you to scan their vehicles. And he says, absolutely not. But she gets this smirk on her face that tells me when he says absolutely not like that, she knows he's going to do it. Why do you have a picture of Chief Justice Urtican on your monitor? Or Tekken? Because she's going to be at Bancroft's tonight, along with all these other meths. It's the guest list, aka potential suspects in Mary Lou's death. It's going to be great. I found it very funny because, just like a small thing, the design of this like workspace, the computer monitor, so to speak, the screen is in the desk, so you can't really set anything down on it. And then there's this divider between the two of them that I'm assuming is meant to like share information onto, maybe. But yeah, just the idea that like a desk is no longer a space that you put stuff on because it's got to be clear. It makes sense in a way. You kind of got two screens to work with, but I feel like I'd find that very annoying. Also, we get this like news bit. Good news, everyone. It's Sugar Skull season again. Dia de los Muertos is tomorrow and preparations are in full swing. I've got to assume something's going to happen with that. And I am really worried about it because this world is very grim already. And once we start throwing in a little bit of like the spookiness, I don't, for me, like the idea of Halloween, which is not Dia de los Muertos, like I just want to get that out of the way right away. Halloween is a separate thing, but for me, Halloween is about pumpkins and bats and witches and anything that's got to do a lot with gore. That's never been my, like, the vibe of Halloween for me. So when it's like, oh, we watch slasher movies at Halloween, I'm always like, really? Because that just does not feel appropriate to the thing. I understand that that is me, and that other people have a whole different way of like interpreting the holiday. Dia de los Muertos is a celebration of your ancestors. It's ancestor worship, basically. And this place doing that, if your ancestors are like alive still as stacks, maybe you don't have a sleeve, can't afford one, but you still got the stack. What does that look like? And what kind of like, How long can you hold a stack without a sleeve? Is there a restriction on that? Because I feel like I wouldn't want to be just kept in a drawer somewhere until they can scrape enough money together to put me into a new body. I would just let me die. Just let me go. There's just a lot here. This is what I'm talking about with like the tiny things that we brush up against, that all these implications begin to show up, and I'm sort of like, yikes. Because it's a whole holiday that revolves around death and ancestors, and if death doesn't work the same way anymore, that has to fundamentally change how the holiday works. So, anyway, this is when we get the shopping scene where Vernon takes Kovacs to this guy, and this dude is very fun. I don't know this actor, but he's got a delightful countenance, and he has all kinds of, like, you know, under the table dealings that he does. Beryllium level credit is what we've flashed over here. Delightful. You guys, beryllium. Can you imagine if that's how things worked at this point? If we went with that kind of like genuinely the most precious metal because it's used in the production of microchips instead of like platinum, you know, that would be very funny. So he comes up with this gun that he holds it up, and it's like he is actually trying to kill Vernon. I didn't really believe that he was, but it felt like the reaction Kovacs has is very much, you are attempting to commit murder here. But yeah, he tells Vernon to stay down. And it's so wild, y'all, because this bullet comes out, and when he presses another button, it retracts back into the gun. Reverse field generator. The flechette homes through a plasma chamber, auto loads right into the mag. You could have skewered me like a kebab twice. And he's like, I'll take it. So then he shows him like the custom that he has. And Kovacs says it was off of some guy who didn't need it anymore, which this man knows precisely what he means and just says, fair enough. So then we look at some different blades. Tebbit knife, flint in the pommel for weightlifting, runnels coated with reaper, beta thanatine. Shit scientists cooked up to study near-death experience. Deeper you stab, the more dose you get. Ring it up plus whatever he wants. Guys, a near-death experience? How does that work? Like, are you actually dead? Is that the implication that, like, the more of it you get, the more almost dead you are? Or the longer you stay unconscious? Or, I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, this is when we get the flashback about, like, creating a pack for yourself. And we get to see Kelchrist, with this incredible disarming, like, the fight is so much fun to watch. Heavily edited, of course, but nevertheless, you get the impression that a bitch is extremely talented and dedicated. And she says, I control the sleeve does not control me. Which, if only it were that simple. If only that were true. Unfortunately, that's not the way that things work, actually. But that's in our world. I guess in this world, who knows? So, okay, here's the scene where the daughter talks. Let's see. I'm here for whatever you require. You have my most solemn oath. And she's crying, and she says, they took mommy away because she stole stars from the sky. They ripped her soul out through her eyes and froze it. Now she just spins around and around, a dancer in the frost. She has icicles in her hair. I have no idea. They took her soul out of her eyes? Like, can they pull her stack through from the back of her neck out her eyes? Is that possible? And what does stealing stars from the sky even mean? And there's a lady who got dropped from the sky. Was she trying to steal something from the sky too? What is happening? Candace says, do you remember what Vernon said about his wife? I sure don't. Fill me in. Why she is in prison on ice. No. This was in the previous episode, I'm assuming. And yeah, I probably should rewatch that. She's in prison for dipping. Hacking stuff. Oh. Vaguely. What is it that hacking is again? A dipper stealing meth memories. Oh, right. Okay, yes. That's right. Because we find out about, like, that they can steal, like, you know, some chicks losing her virginity or, yeah, things like that. Okay, gotcha. Stealing stars from the sky. Wow. Very unhelpful, chickie. But, you know, I guess we already know, so it doesn't really even matter. Let's jump ahead to the actual party itself. I cannot help but laugh at the fact that we still have Kovacs walking around with this, like, pink plastic backpack. And he's got the weapons in it, and even though he's in this incredible place, he says that he doesn't trust the neighborhood. He should have left it. He should have left it in the car, but he doesn't trust the neighborhood. That killed me. The deadpan look that he gets from these guys from it is so funny. The actual party itself, I couldn't tell if the wife that he encounters here is already the daughter in her mother's sleeve, or if it is the daughter in a second sleeve of her mother's, like, you know, another clone. I think her mother isn't, but wouldn't her mother come to the gathering? Like, I don't feel like you could impersonate her here because she would have to be here. I don't know. So Ortega, she is in the midst of talking to Mahmoud about looking through the flight logs for different people's vehicles and narrowing it down, insisting that it's a very easy job because she won't be doing it. And let's see. Oh, yeah. Kristen Ortega, organic damage. Normally a street cop does that. Yeah, don't fucking remind me. And this is when we find out that both of these people are married. And he is wearing a ring, which is not supposed to be legal for this fight. But his wife made him jam the ring on, despite the fact that it's too small for him. And the whole way that this is played as like a normal thing. Gotta provide for the kids somehow, right? This is right when Kovacs walks in. And they fight to the sleeve death. The winner gets an upgraded combat sleeve. Loser gets a downgraded one. What exactly does downgraded mean? And I'm assuming the way they work is you get a downgraded one and then you have to get it into shape, right? Like you get a body that's like not been taken care of real well, and you've got to bring it back to fighting condition, which I would think would mean you are less likely to win every time because you are dealing with like worse materials, and it would be a sort of self-fulfilling thing. But maybe not. Candace says, I assumed the only time we saw the daughter in her mom's sleeve is when he caught her, and every other scene was Miriam herself. Okay. That's kind of what I was thinking. I think just downgraded, like with no combat enhancements or metabolic upgrades or something. That's even worse. that seems like you'd be even more at a disadvantage. So yeah, you go home to your kids as strangers and they say, oh, they're used to it. How old are they? 5 and 7. And both he and Ortega say at the same time, they're not used to it. And it's clear they're trying to just be like, do what you want, guys. But they both are very, very judgy about this. And that is not me making a call. That is just what's happening. I think they're right. But also, I mean, there are also people out there who fucking love to fight. Like, I don't mean like they love drama. I mean like there are people out there who really enjoy combat and would love to be able to do the kinds of fighting where you are able to actually let loose and know that the person you're fighting is going to be okay and really like see what you can do. So there's a part of me that sort of weirdly understands the appeal of this in a way, but it just feels extremely, there's something very selfish about it to me. Trying to be like, oh, gotta provide for the kids somehow. I'm just sort of like, is that really it? Because I feel like you could do a lot of other things. But okay, if this is just what you like, I kind of wish you'd just say that. So let's see. We have the conversation between him and Ortega. She really just does not like him. And essentially it ends with her telling him to stay out of her way. And the camera, it like sort of just goes round and round this whole party, looking at the insanity of what everybody is wearing, the way that they are behaving, what we are eating. There's this like white tiger that is being carved up in front of us. And it's just the sort of thing that you guys, I can fully look at this and know this is a prop. And yet it is so sickening. It is so horrible and upsetting. I have no issue with eating animals. And I absolutely would not feel the same way if this was a different sort of animal. And I know that there's all kinds of things that we can say about how we have double standards depending on the type of animal. And I can acknowledge that. That is true. And also, yeah, I'm a hypocrite about it. I'm not even going to try and like justify it or apologize. Y'all know it's different. And this beautiful animal being laid out on this table and carved up like it's a fucking turkey is truly hideous and also made me really hungry and then feel horrible about that. But there it is. So we then have the surprise, the waiter. Oh my God, you guys, I've already forgotten his name, Vernon. I'm going to really have to work on remembering that because he is not a Vernon to me. I'm going to give it Vernon as in Vernon Dursley and just be like, which character in this show is the least likely to be named Vernon? And I think that will help me remember because otherwise it's just not going to gel. So Kovacs goes then and talks to his employer. Name, please remind me. Candace says they're capital people. This is how they should have looked, in my opinion, this obscene. And Renata says, Candace, I literally just thought that. Yeah, this is something that, if you're interested, anybody listening, Rashawn and I covered the Hunger Games and we did the movies as well. And the movies just were not adequate, in my opinion. They are so restrained and so childish, like for what the material actually is. So fully agree. It should have been something really, like truly off-putting and hideous like this, in my opinion. But yeah, so Kovacs is like, so I thought you were going to tell me about your habit of going to bio cabins and beating women nearly to death. Didn't consider it to be particularly important. I have spent some time in purchased sexual release. That's the way he puts it, both virtual and real. But then I've also spent time off-world gambling or indulging my passion for null gravity knife fighting, which we eventually get to see. I have never taken a single life. Unlike you, I have a line that I am very careful not to cross, which that is hilarious, because the fact that you can say I haven't taken a life when you have killed people with your bare hands just because it's sleeves is really, it's fucked up. So then we get this little moment with his son, Isaac, who is not, this kid keeps acting up throughout this whole party. He just keeps being a dickhead. And his father says that, I know he didn't pull the trigger because he doesn't have the balls. I wish he did. I wonder where I went wrong with that one. I gave him every advantage. And Kovacs says, except one, there's a natural order to birth and death, boy changing to a man. You interrupted it. And I was not sure what he meant by this. And then I realized it was simply that you are still alive. Just the fact that, like, you're supposed to age and eventually he takes your place. But if you are not willing to give up what you have, then he can't fully mature and become anything himself, which that had not occurred to me. And I'm wondering, like, are they being kept in sleeves that are younger than what they should look like? I mean, clearly they are, but you know what I'm saying? Like, how much younger? If he wanted to advance to full adulthood, and rather than what I think he looks like, he's like 20 here, you know? But yeah, dude says you sound like one of those insane neo-Catholics, and I'm just like, yeah, I guess I would probably be more of a neo-Catholic. Oh well. So then we have the scene where he interrupts the daughter wearing her mother's sleeve and fucking in some, like, corner. When I say corner, I mean very coolly crafted hidden room behind, like, a sliding, what do you call it, bookshelf. When she comes up to him, I loved that I immediately felt like something was wrong. I didn't get what was going on. And when he says, I know who you're not, I was like, oh my God, that never even occurred to me. But this actress is excellent at very much conveying there is a different person inside her body right now. And I always find this so fascinating in terms of just the mechanics of being an actor and how you have to change so much about very small, a series of small adjustments that come together to create a major adjustment, you know, that makes it clear this is not the person you were dealing with before. And yeah, she just does this for the fun, basically. It's just like, yeah, because fuck her, whatever. And she says, I'm not a kid. I'm 67 years old. And if my real father dies, the family gets nothing. It's written into his will. I do not do penniless. So again, the son, he's over here, like, starting shit with some Japanese guys. Just being a real, like, fucking dumbbell. And eventually they get interrupted by the lawyer, and she does her, I want to be one of them, so what are you doing, fucking this up for me? And then this other lady turns up. I expected something more impressive than slamming a spoiled child against a wall. Maybe I was wrong about you. And he's like, what the fuck are you? I don't know who you are. She says, I deal in art and antiquities. My name is Clarissa. I hate her instantly. I really hated her. I was so, like, as everything went on and we get to see more of her, I was like, wow, I hate her even more. Like, I just didn't, just instant, you guys, truly despised her. So anyway, I really must thank you. The finder's fee for something as unusual as you was really quite considerable. Ew. And later on, when everybody has to show off the unique thing that they brought, that is what his employer shows off, is him as his property. It is so incredibly dehumanizing and disgusting. Oh, God. So I'm realizing, like, I am so much out of time, and I'm not even quite at, like, the thrust of things here. I'm sorry, guys. There's just so much to talk about. So, you're just at the crossroads of Bancroft's indulgence and Clarissa's business. You're an indulgence like an overbred pet. Oof. You, like, girl, what do you think you are? Like, as a lawyer, you're not even as valuable as him. You're talking down to him. And the truth is, you are more replaceable and less important than he is. They would put more effort into keeping a vase from breaking on the floor than saving your life. You know? Just like, ugh, the whole thing. So, there is this, the woman Clarissa eventually gets up there and talks about this snake that has a stack embedded in it, which is illegal, but rules don't apply to people like us, she literally says with words. The stack of a rapist who didn't read the fine print and agreed to be by her side rather than going on death row. And she tried to move him into a regular body after this. She says that all he did was writhe on the ground. And so I kept him in this, like, snake's body. Turns out you go quite mad. He just lay on the ground and writhed. So now he's a snake forever. And everybody applauds this. Like, look, far be it from me to defend the soul of a rapist. But also, considering the way this world works, I'm not necessarily confident that that was really a rapist, first of all. Considering the way our world works, you know, like, there's... How often do we really put rapists away? Let's talk about it. But anyway, so... as this is all going on, we have the contact between Vernon and Kovacs. And Vernon is telling this guy that he stabs, take some analgesics and hydrate when you wake up, but don't tell anybody about this because they'll fire you. Which probably actually is true. And this guy, the point of this is that he's going to hack into the system that is set up for the fight later. And it's the couple that are going to be fighting in zero gravity. And it's like a really terrible fight. We see these people on the sidelines getting splattered with blood. And one of the girls literally licks her fingers. Like, like, oh my God, the blood, yum. You know, I was just like, that is so sick. I bet in the actual scene that this is like corn syrup. You know, so the actress was just like, I'm going to lick it. And they were like, you know what? Keep that in because that's extra fucked up. Yes, we'll use that take. Thank you. But eventually, Kovacs steps in and stops this guy from beating his wife to death. And Bancroft says, take him out and I'll upgrade you both. So they yank Kovacs into the zero grav. And he is like, what are you doing, Vernon? Are you going to fucking do something here? And Vernon's like, I'm working on it. At one point, Bancroft tosses a knife in because he just can't help himself. And the zero grav gets turned off in time to stop things from going completely bonkers. Meanwhile, Vernon is getting a copy of the security footage that like on the night of what happened to his daughter, because he's trying to figure out like part of what happened here. And yeah, this whole thing is, it's so, the way in which these people are just not people. It's really frightening. It's already like this so much but this is just, it's taken to such a whole new level. And also, I'm realizing like the 0G gets turned off. Was that actually Vernon that did it? It was Ortega that does that, right? Because she shoots the thing. I'm just remembering this now. The fight is starting to really go bad. Like Kovacs is getting got by the wife with a knife from behind. So it's like she steps in just before he can actually be killed, because Bancroft is like crowing over the fact that he is my property, so I can do what I want with him. Yeah, there she is. She steps in and shoots it. And I guess that kind of answers some of my question about whether or not that like organic damage permit would have covered him. I guess it would have. But yeah, once they are broken like this and the fight is called off, it's supposed to be to the death, but the wife is really agitated here. And she says, his sleeve, it's wrecked. He says, you fought an envoy and lived, call it good. And she says, but nobody died. We get nothing. I can't even afford to fix him. So Kovacs kills him and uses that knife. They can have my winnings, upgraded sleeves for both of them. Or are you going to back on your word? By all means, it's only fair. Bancroft was really trying to get back at him in some way. This is like, imagine having this kind of power and being this petty. You have everything in the world to worry about or to focus on or to distract yourself with. And this man fucking your wife, this is what you're preoccupied with right now. Like, come the fuck on. Ugh. Get a life. Literally. But no, if there's something this profoundly wrong with you, nothing is going to make you satisfied. Like, I guess that's just part of it. There's just, that wrongness is just not going to go away. So let's see. I'm trying to get to the end of because they have that conversation about fucking her. And then we have Kovacs leaving and getting, like, reconvening with Vernon, and is like, where the fuck were you, dude? I was about to be cut and sliced up. And he says, surveillance data. Night Lizzie disappeared. I'll let you know if I get anything once I scrub through it. Did you get anything? Yeah, I got nauseated. This place, the way they live, what they do for fun, nothing matters to them. The longer they live, the worse it gets. They get bored. So, and that's pretty much it. The idea of like this nihilism that develops if you live too long makes a lot of sense, actually. So yeah, Vernon and Ortega, they meet. She gives back his weapon that was confiscated. She tells Kovacs to stay out of trouble just for a few hours because saving your ass is not my only job. It's so funny how much she seems to hate him, and yet she does. I won't say she cares about him. It just feels like a means to an end. But, you know, there's clearly something there. I can't decide if I like her or not. I don't think I do, but I'm also kind of delighted that I don't, because she doesn't have to be likable. Women characters are so often like made to be, and it's kind of fun to have one that I'm just like, oh no, she's like a main and she's important and she's competent, but I kind of just don't like her personality. She's just kind of, you know, unpleasant, and that's kind of nice. So this is when Kovacs says that he's going to be heading out to deal with something else. And Vernon says, do you need some more backup? And it's definitely like, we're already pals. Kovacs seems sort of taken aback by the fact that he wants to stay around him. And when he's like, I've got something else to do, and walks off, it feels very much like Vernon doesn't know what to do with himself. So we go back to Jack It Off, and he tries to visit the sex worker that he spoke with last time. And she comes staggering up to the door, and she's so fucked up. And I was like, immediately when I saw her, I was like, dude, you need to get the fuck out of here. You need to go. She is not okay. Something bad is about to happen. But he doesn't. He's just like, what happened to you? Are you okay? And she says, I'm sorry they made me. And he says, what? And she injects him with this stuff. Now, I don't know if it's the same as what was on that knife, but he goes down. Two dudes come in. One of them is this pompadour guy that is just bonkers. The other one is the guy that he beat out in the alleyway with the thing on his back. And after she injects him and she sits on the bed, the guy in the alleyway grabs her, and yeah, I think that he gets her stack. Does he? It looks like he slices her throat, but I don't know. It felt like more permanent than that. And he takes his bracelet off and leaves it on the floor. I don't know what that was meant to be, if that's supposed to be like a clue for somebody or what. But he gets got and carried into this weird sort of like, it's like an operating room, but there's multiple other people in there, and he can't move. He's like coming back to consciousness and looking around, and there is a sense of like he is understanding where he is, and I may be misreading that, but it felt like he sort of knew what was going on here. They are told, put him in number 5. How long do you think he's going to take? Long as we need, is what he says, which I don't like that at all. I don't like the sound of it. And dude with the pompadour says he's waking up, dose him. And he gets injected with something again and goes out. And that is the end of the episode. So yeah, I don't like this at all. And I am very, very concerned. I don't like it. And it's just poor Anemone. She deserved better. She did. Anyway, I gotta wrap up, guys. I'm over time. But Renata is saying pompadour guy, haha, amazing. Yeah, that's he's got like an evil Elvis. Evil 2010s Elvis. All right, guys, I'm gonna wrap. Thank you again so much. And very interested in the next episode. Thank you, Renata, for hanging out with me, and Candace as well. Hope y'all are enjoying the coverage. And until next time, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.